Thank you very much, Mr. MC. My name is Oyeyemi. I'm Managing Director at First Fiduciary Limited and also partner at AO2 Law. First Fiduciary Limited has assisted quite a number of settlors with regards to the establishment of host community development trusts, and also provided advisory and implementation support with regards to the establishment of trusts, and we continue to provide what I would call regulatory and compliance support. I have an able panel here, and what we're to discuss this morning is HCDT implementation, addressing challenges and exploring solutions. We've heard from the keynote address by Engineer Karimo on what the Commission has done, the challenges, progress, milestones, and how implementation has been thus far, I think from 2022 up until now, which is just about 3 years. This panel will now dive deep into what are really the challenges that has been experienced with regards to implementation, with regards to compliance, and also from a regulatory perspective. I would give each of the panelists a few minutes to introduce themselves and let us know what they do before we now start discussing issues around the implementation and also challenges. So I will start with Mrs. Awah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, First Fiduciary and AO2 Law. For this opportunity. My name is Omolade Awah. I am a manager with the Health, Safety, Environment and Community Division of the NUPRC. I work with the Community Development and Administration team there at the NUPRC. What we do is oversee the process of incorporating HCDTs and operationalizing those trusts. It's basically what we do at the NUPRC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Idike.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. This is a beautiful program that you have established, and we should continue to, host, this type of workshops and, panel discussions on host community. I'm an Associate General Counsel, Seplat Energy PLC. Before that, I was the Company Secretary of ExxonMobil, Nigeria, and also a co-chair of the OPTS Legal Subcommittee of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And I was part of the team of the OPTS advocacy and engagement team that worked with the federal government to review the draft that led to this PIA. A couple of provisions, original proposals from the government and from the communities were dropped. And what we see today is an agglomeration of concessions that were made. And as we see, the fund is running successfully. This is an interactive session. While providing my perspective, I would like to go through, the historical development, especially the fact that Nigeria is the first country and the only country that has statutorily enacted corporate social responsibility. So we need to be proud of our country. I have not seen it anywhere in the world. Corporate social responsibility is voluntary. But this is the first time in the history of the whole world that a country has sat down to institutionalize and establish by way of a statute host community development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Idike. Mr. Agbelese.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to echo the sentiments expressed earlier by Dr. Idike about, this session being timely and, of course, being topical. It's good that we're having these discussions, and, we should encourage having them from time to time. Let's know where we are. Let's get feelers from, what's actually happening on the field. My name is Dare Agbelese. I'm Group Head Legal and Supply Chain Management for the Waltersmith Group. We operate PML 5 and PPL 243 in Imo State, as well as a modular refinery and an industrial park currently within our area of operation. HCDT is something I have direct oversight on, even though I am legal, but to the extent that it involves extensive legal and compliance obligations, that falls within my purview. HCDT is something we've tracked for a while. I remember during early iterations of the PIB, as it then was, it was such a topical issue, and I think it's probably one of the things that stopped the bill from coming into fruition at the end of the Jonathan administration. I recall then everybody wanted every filling station in their community to be a host community. The definition was so expansive at the time, and it would have led to serious absurdities. But it's good to see how far it's come, and how well it's being managed. I think Engineer Karimu did give a good summary of where the NUPRC is with managing it, and I think they've done a terrific job, and they deserve all the credit. One thing I think we should end up living here with and having at the back of our minds is, even though we've been able to legislate CSR like you said, I think we also need to understand that there's a place of our government also stepping in. Let's not always rely 100% on private individuals to support government, things that government should typically always do. There's a government in place for a reason, but HCDT will always be there to support it. And, it's important that, we understand that this is just supposed to be supplementary to what our government, is constitutionally set up to carry out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dari. Mr. Toby?
Okay, good morning all. Emmanuel Toby is my name, Community Relation Manager for Ingentia's Energy. I'm happy to be here today because I've worked in the oil industry, starting from the days of CA, Community Affairs, to the era of the GMO use, and to now the PIA, so I have actually had some knowledge of all these phases. And in all sincerity, I can tell you the PIA is good for now. And just like what Engineer Karimo said, every law cannot solve the problem forever. As the community or the system evolves, we also need to amend it to suit us. So I'm happy we're having this kind of discussion, so that we also profile probably some few solutions based on existing circumstances as we have them now. And then we look forward to a better relationship between the settlor and our host communities. Thank you.
Thank you to the panelists. So let me go to the questions proper. And I'll start with you, Dari. Looking at, when the keynote address was given, Engineer Karimu said something about mistrust. And I think that has been a recurring issue over the years, especially with the host communities having some level of deficit or trust deficit, as it were, with regards to operating companies. Now, in your experience, I know Waltersmith was I think one of the first few to set up the HCDT or to comply. And I know you had a few, what I would say, nuances with regards to, and I think everyone does in terms of their area of operations, but you had a few nuances with regards to the peculiarity of your area of operation. The question is, what would you say on the area of trust? What would you say would be the avenue to build sustainable relationships with the host communities, right? Looking at where we're coming from in terms of the trust deficit and how perhaps the PIA is able to address that.
Thanks, Yemi. I mean, you did point it out correctly that, you know, there are certain peculiarities with the areas of which we operate, and if I say it was, you know, easy trying to get our host community set up, that would be a joke, you know. And I remain very grateful to Engineer Karimu and Mrs. Awah. The two of them have been, you know, extremely helpful in helping us get our, you know, our trust running, and effectively, you know, we get timely feedback from them, and they make, you know, operationalization of that trust a breeze. So I'd just like to acknowledge them. One of the things you'll find out in our own area of operation, we are in Imo State. Not a lot of people actually realize that there is actually oil in Imo State, you know. When you talk of Niger Delta, people think of the South alone. But they seem to forget that it actually stretches further up towards the southeast. Now, you'll find out that the structures there are not exactly the same as you have in Rivers, Bayelsa, Delta. They're a bit more homogeneous in the way their traditional institutions are set up, right? It's more linear, more straight to the top. It's easier speaking to maybe the traditional ruler there, at least from my own experience in, you know, in a previous host community I had interacted with while I was in the employ of another company. I found out it's a bit more straightforward there. But in the southeast, it's a different structure. Governance there is, there's a word it's used, it's called acephalos, right? You have an Eze who's in charge, but the Eze himself is not a final authority per se. They have the right kind of structures sitting right beneath him. They are the chiefs in council. There's the, I think they're called the umus, you know, the umunas, like the town hall, where you have different kindreds made up there. Then you have a president general. Each and every one of them holds their distinct functions. They have what they're responsible for. They have, you know, their own remits of authority. Now, unlike some other communities, you may just go approach the Eze. You think you've had it done. Oh, I've signed a deal with the Eze. The Eze has said this. I can go and have my peace. If you try that where we operate, you know, you will find yourself in very deep trouble. So what we did, you know, to build that trust was try and understand the governance structures within, you know, our host communities. Go in and do in-depth community stakeholder mapping. Who is what? Who has what remit? Who has what powers? Try and understand, you know, who's responsible for what, so that you carry everyone along. You know, it's a beautiful governance system they have. It's native democracy, if you like, but, you know, in a very controlled and, you know, detailed manner. So we identify those, you know, those structures, those organizations, convened a town hall, and, you know, we explained to them, you know, Engineer Karimu talked about spending time educating them. We had repeated sessions with the community, with the town hall, just even telling them about the PIA, not only about the host community provisions, but about everything, so that they understand this grand overhaul of the oil and gas industry, right? We took time and spent good amount of money just educating each community. Luckily for us, our assets are relatively smaller. We operate both our assets within a 20-kilometer radius, so it's not a large OML type operation. And you know, we're able to get these communities together, you know, and speak to them individually, tell them what the PI is about, let them understand how the GMOU structure did not exactly, you know, favor you per se, and how, you know, now we are bound by law to do this. It's legislated. If we don't do this for you, we can't operate, right? Our social license does not just come from only you, the community now. Social license also comes from the NUPRC. If they say we're good, then they have to check in with you, and, you know, then we can operate. So we also had good help from, you know, the field staff from the NUPRC, who came into these sessions, also provided some measure of education, because at first it looked like, look, these guys just want to find a way to take all the money out of this GMOU and put it in some other place, because we had built up substantial funds in our GMOU account. But we told them, look, GMOU doesn't apply anymore. We have to move these funds into a trust, and it's segregated into these, you know, layers for your benefit. And I mean, it was a lot of explanation, but in the end, we were able to get there. It wasn't easy, but again, like I said, with the real support we had from the NUPRC, we were able to pull it off. And I think overall, they saw that the intentions of the law were good, and longer term, it favored them. So that's
okay. Thanks for that, Dr. Idike. Darren mentioned something now to say, and I think it's the use of word, which is the expression stakeholder mapping, which perhaps is another name for needs assessment, right? The question will be, looking at what the law says with regards to needs assessment, it's quite prescriptive, and even if you go to the regulation, there are actually things you need to do. But again, sometimes we can only, as draftsmen, or sometimes draftsmen can only envisage, right? But they can never look at all scenarios in its entirety. Now, the question to you is, considering the experience you've had over the years, CA structure, GMOU structure, HCDT now, what would you describe, or what would be your description of a good approach to needs assessment?
Very good question. To start, I think the entirety of the host community development trust's obligations and delivery rest on needs assessment. Let us not make any mistake about that. It starts and ends with needs assessment. If you look at the provisions of the PIA, it tells you the objectives of the host community trust: sustainable development, sustainable initiatives, creating an amicable and peaceful relationship and coexistence with the host communities, looking at the environmental impact of oil operations, and consulting with the host communities to understand the impact of oil operations on host communities, and then specify initiatives to address them. So you look at MOU that we used in the past, nowhere near what the PIA is prescribing. So there is a difference, big difference between them. MOU is not, is here and there. You can put anything there and run with it. But the Act is very, very clear on what you are required to do. And if you are unable to understand the impact of oil operations on the communities, you will not be able to successfully run a host community development trust. So once you're able to conduct the needs assessment with the community and understand also the impact, the specific impacts on the people arising from oil operations, then you'll be able to draw the needs assessment. And bear in mind that the needs assessment is the one, as you rightly mentioned, that leads to the development of the plan itself, host community development plan, which is like the constitution of the entire host community. So if you abandon the needs assessment or you miss it, there may be a problem. You may not be able to get to where you want to be. So needs assessment is critical. It's the most important aspect. In fact, is a live wire of the entire HCDT. Entire live wire. In fact, and that is why the success and failure of a host community trust development stride will always rest on how robust and how effective a needs assessment has been. So over the years, operators in different leases, holding several leases, have devised several means to conduct needs assessment. One of it is engaging a third-party contractor to help them go into the communities, speak, engage the women, engage the youths, engage community leaders to understand what they need. But part of the problems we have had so far is, this is a new law. You're engaging them, and they do not really, they are still thinking of the old system where they want to, serve their own interests instead of the interests of the host community. So that's one of the biggest challenges we had, and we're still having, operationalizing the provisions of the PIA on needs assessment. How do you really reflect the needs of the community? How do you identify them? And how do you address them? The problems we have had is that some of the communities have always, in engaging them, they will be thinking of their own interests instead of the interests of the community at large. So once you have such conflicting interests, very strong conflicting interests, what do? We have had issues with that. And what we normally do is we'll go back to the regulator. And I can tell you the regulator has been very, very effective, very, very helpful in resolving some of this. So I must give them, thumbs up for the role they have played in intervening, speedily to resolve some of these issues. So if you look at the MOU that we had in the past, responding to your question, and the needs assessment provisions we have in the PIA, you can see that the PIA has, overgrown, the successes that we had in the MOU. The MOU was fine. It was able to, create peace, allow for the operations and all that, but the PIA takes it to a higher level. And that's why we're able to see some, evidence, examples of peaceful coexistence that we see today. And it's going to rise. It's not going to go back anymore. We have gone past that. And I also give kudos to the federal government of Nigeria, which in its wisdom went beyond the NDDC program to say, okay, this NDDC has not worked, so what do we do? And they devised this idea of pushing, encouraging, creating an obligation for operators who are really big stakeholders to the oil and gas industry operation to take, active part in the development of benefits to host communities. I think that's a game changer. Let's just note that that's a game changer for the oil communities. And my advice to the host communities is take this and run. It's for your benefit. It's in your interest. Try and avoid self-interest. Look to achieve interests, benefits that are for the entire community, because when the entire community wins, everybody wins. But once you begin to continue to project your self-interest, there will be a big problem. There's a lot of conflict, which will drain resources, which will lead to nowhere. I see so many communities that are still stalled today over host community development trust obligations compliance. And their cases are in court, and the contributions we are making are being paid into an escrow account. So imagine what is happening to those communities just because of internal wranglings and lack of discord and self-interest. These communities are not benefiting real time from the opportunities we have under the PIA. So that is one area that we need to find opportunity to think well, think outside the box and see what we can do to ensure that the communities that are required to enjoy these benefits enjoy them now, not tomorrow. What the money at hand tomorrow is worth more than maybe 100 times, you never know, maybe 200 times tomorrow. So today is the time for these communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Idike, and thank you for letting us know that we're seeing significant improvement on CSR initiatives, particularly bearing in mind that the HCDT framework is CSR with statutory flavor. Ms. Awah, permit me to come to you last, being the regulator. I would go to Mr. Toby now to let us know, based on his experience, in terms of if you look at the regulation, the 2022 regulation, there's prescription that there has to be compliance with the Local Content Act with regards to host community development implementation. The question would be, why does local content matter? One. The other one will be, how do you now integrate local manpower, right, as you implement the HCDT initiative?
Okay, thank you very much. To start with, I think the PIA is actually a first of it all. What it has really solved for settlors is the challenge of deciding how much we set aside for development. It's actually very objective way. So it has solved one big problem for us, because when you go for GMOU negotiation, I'm going to come to your question. When you go for GMOU negotiations, what comes first to your mind is how much. And on the other side, the parties will be talking billions, and you on the other. So the negotiation takes a long time. So to praise and thank the government for PI is that it has made the process of contribution from the settlors more objective. Then on the area of development, I'll say, fine, the local content, you can't take it away from our people. It simply means getting the local involved in activity. And especially we discover one of the first challenge we get is they don't have much of the necessary needed skills to work well. So with the PIA, the trainings and other things happening, they now get necessary skills to now key into your operations. Like for example, if you're doing pipeline welding and the community people need to prospect and they are not experienced, they are not trained in that area, you can't allow them to work because you know what it will cost you. But where the PIA has come into place and the skill acquisition program is run by the community and people are well trained, they can now key in. Secondly, the company to make opportunity through the board of BOT for community contractors to register with them. So with this, they can also participate in the contracting process in the companies, and this builds their capacity. Seriously, this PIA has given community much. We always say they are partners, but I think they feel more as partners now than before. Because what has happened is that they now compete with other vendors for contracts that they have capacity to do. While at the same time too, just like what Mr. HCDTs are also being built in-house. You give them opportunity gradually to do some other smaller ones, and then gradually you guide them through to go to the next stage. I know of some oil company in the past, I won't call name here, so I'm not advertising for any, that actually had tried to build local capacity by putting them through trainings. Local contractors train them on processing and what they need to do to actually meet up and then participate. What has it done? The PIA now had actually given them more opportunity to, as they are construction buildings in their place, infrastructure and other things, they are now using local manpower. And with the use of local manpower, all these people had become much more useful to themselves. And the economy of the area is also improving because money is coming into the people. And then too, they also provide security. As we speak now, just like what Dr. Karimu has said, with their participation and the feel of ownership now, the disruption of activities, both from demonstration and others, I'm sure I don't need to even give you figure. If you listen to news, before you used to hear so thing has happened, this has happened, disruption in this area, you don't have it again. I think this year, only one we had was a union activity on a particular oil company. Outside that, they've been quite peaceful because they have been fully engaged. As we speak, it might not be all, but as more companies are rolling out their PIA, more opportunities will come and more communities will get more engaged and become part owners. They will feel now more like partners. Then another thing I needed to point out is like when we talk about the needs assessment that was actually mentioned here. Yeah, it's correct. Very absolutely correct. The needs assessment, I think we need to also look at other areas. Let me digress a little. For the area of contracting process for the HCDT, we need to also look at it. It's working well now. But to be honest with you, as time goes on, we are all human beings. We don't have things regulating us, we become demagogues. Some clusters HCDTs, trust, are sitting with billions. And the chairman will feel I can award to anybody. So what I'll suggest to our regulators is that probably we should have something like OP guide, Operation Procedure Guide, so that I don't really have to, what you call chronism will not come in. I start awarding contract to my relation and others, and then that will bring actually distrust and bring all the big achievement we've gotten will go to zero, because people will actually feel sidelined, and some will also feel the agitation of even being the board will come stronger now if that is not checked quickly. So that's my little take. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toby. And I think the point on having some type of framework on contracting process should be looked at, so that you don't have a situation of abuse by members of the BOT. Mrs. Awah, now, it's always good to save the best for last. You would have what I call a bird eye view with regards to all the issues. And one of the things I found out is that sometimes we commentators, advisors inclusive, would continue to give the regulator flags without knowing that actually there's a lot of work that has been done. But interestingly, I think this morning, I think there's a consensus that the Commission has actually made a lot of progress with regards to framework on one side, implementation, and I guess on the third side would be providing necessary support to aid compliance. I have a question. My question has to do with, one, what are some of the regulatory expectations, right, that the Commission expects of settlors, even the host communities as well, and also what are the enforcement mechanisms that you have put in place, not the extreme ones that the PIA has said in terms of perhaps license revocation, but things to ensure that the stakeholders fall in line. I would want to hear your views on that. I think I have about 3 questions for you, but let's start with that.
All right, thank you very much. For us at the NUPRC, the journey of enforcing the provisions of Chapter 3 of the PIA has been interesting. It's been challenging, but rewarding as well. So like we had in the keynote presentation, we have 146 HCDTs incorporated and running. and a lot of work. The settlers here present would bear witness to this. A lot of work went into getting those trusts incorporated. A barrage of petitions, objections, demands. We don't want this man on our BOT, this community. We cannot be in the same room with this set of people. I've learned histories of. I was at a meeting in Port Harcourt, and I remember telling the communities that I can write a bestseller, a New York bestseller, with some of the, complaints and the history and stories I was hearing about those communities. By the way, these are brothers. They live side by side, but they just cannot see eye to eye. We still haven't been able to incorporate the trust for those set of communities even now. So that goes to show you the amount of work that goes into getting these trusts up and running. That said, we have 146 trusts, and in terms of expectations, the Commission has expectations with regards to the settlor themselves, which are the upstream operators. The PIA calls them the settlers. The Commission has expectations of the Board of Trustees because they sit at the topmost echelon of the trusts. So for the settlers, it is expected that you hold community consultations and that the communities that constitute the HCDTs that you want to establish must be part of the process from the get-go. If you don't get it right at that point and you are not involving the right parties, like one of the speakers said, I think it was Dari that mentioned how the Imo State traditional system is, set up. If you think I'm just going to go talk to the traditional ruler, there's going to be issues. So the communities themselves, they have to be part of the process. We expect that you consult them and they participate in it and they select their board of trustees. The first set of BOTs, the communities themselves are selecting those guys. And then you proceed to the incorporation phase. You submit the necessary requirements to the Commission. That's another expectation for us before you now get the trust incorporated at the CAC. And then you must fund that trust. If you haven't funded, you have just succeeded in creating an office that is not going to run. So it must be funded, and the regulation says the funding must happen within 30 days of incorporation. So you must set up the HCDT accounts, the collection account, which will hold the initial 3%, and then the sub-accounts, the capital fund account, the reserve fund account, and the administrative cost fund account. So that must also happen. It is an expectation. We've had to, issue several enforcement. You asked about some of the instruments we use to enforce this, because some settlers will just get the trust incorporated. The law says you must incorporate, prior to FDP approval. So some settlers will just get their trust incorporated and proceed to go and apply for FDP approval, and then just hands off. But you must fund that trust. So we've come up with what we call the Host Community Development Trust full implementation permit. This is a permit we use to enforce funding. You must fund, and then you also have compliance obligations on the Host Comply portal. It's a data reporting portal that helps us to monitor the entire process from incorporation to project execution. So if you do not have the permit, some approval gates are also blocked. That's how the Commission Chief Executive has given his directives. So you go to some other departments at the NUPRC and they are going to be asking you for your full implementation clearance permit before they issue you some other consents and approvals. So when you've, on the portal, you must upload, this is another set of obligations on the part of the settlor and expectations for the Commission. You must upload what we call the settlor resolution. The settlor resolution tells us, gives us proof that you actually consulted these communities. They sign off on minutes of meetings where the conversations are around how the name they want to give to their trust, those that will be on the BOT, everything you did prior to incorporation is documented in your settlor resolution. You upload that. When you remit your funds, you also must upload proof on the host comply portal. And then for trust administration, we don't expect that you incorporate your trusts and then you let them run on autopilot. You must have some kind of oversight. It is an expectation that you monitor the activities of your HCDTs and promptly report any anomalies you are observing. Any misapplication of the fund, you must report it promptly and take steps to safeguard the fund. On the part of the BOTs, BOTs have a way of micromanaging their management committee. At the NUPRC, we refer to the management committee as the engine room of the trust because they design the budget of that trust. They also develop the contracting process for projects execution. They also screen and select the fund managers. It's the rule, it's there stated expressly in the PIA. They select the fund managers. They only make recommendations to the BOT and then the BOT approves their selection. They are also saddled with the responsibility of trust operations reporting. There's the annual report that must come to the commission where we see what you've done in a certain financial year. So you can see that there's a lot of work on the part of the management committee. So we expect that the BOTs give the management committee room to operate effectively. Prioritizing key sustainable development projects is also an expectation that we have of the BOT. So you have your community development plan, which is a fallout of your needs assessment. Needs assessment is when you are at the grassroots and collating data on the kind of projects that the communities want to see, and then you use that to build your CDP. When you are on the BOT, we expect that you must prioritize sustainable development projects, that addresses social infrastructure, education, healthcare. Those are some of tangible projects that we want to see. Some trusts would just begin with scholarship scheme, empowerment scheme, and we had one mid-year report that had over 200 scholarship schemes. This is a very rich HCDT, and they hadn't considered the major projects that would change, the skyline of that environment. So it's good to empower people. We are also happy that you have, but when you have that many people on that fund, drawing from that fund. So how do you want to now fund the tangible projects that we want to see? So it is an expectation of the BOT to ensure that tangible projects are given priority. A major expectation of the Board of Trustees on any HCDT is transparency and accountability. So the funds that you have been entrusted with, you must make sure that you're administering it with honesty. And Dr. Idike mentioned we want to see the benefits now. The funds, you have to keep it sustainable. So you have to, manage it in such a way that this current generation and even future generations are able to benefit from that fund. That's why the PIA says invest 20%. We've had meetings where some BOT members will tell us that the 20% is small. Our admin cost fund is small. Let us pull the 20% and use it to, no, the law says you should invest it. So it's not just for you now, it's just for generations unborn as well. So transparency in managing these funds is a major expectation, and is what gives stakeholders the trust. It builds trust. It helps community members to understand that, okay, this money that has been set aside is actually being used for our own good. Like Mr. Karimu mentioned, we had a testimony from a settlor that for the past 12 years, towards Christmas period, it's always sabotage, civil unrest, and all sorts. And that for the first time in 2024, there was relative peace. Operations went on uninterrupted. and they clearly attributed it to the operations of the HCDTs. So the boys who would usually make trouble were busy on one trust or the other, implementing one project or the other. So that gave us some comfort that so some of the challenges we have seen in the incorporation process, at least something is working, something is different from what we had in the past. So for enforcing some of these compliances, we just issue, so in the extreme, we issue you a non-compliance notice, we sanction you. There are penalties prescribed in the regulations, we enforce that. But mostly we just issue directives. We have the commission had incorporated what we call the HCDT forum. So it's a forum that comprises the settlor reps, the board of trustee chairmen, secretaries to the trusts, and us, the regulators. So we just issue those directives when we notice that something is amiss. For instance, we had issues where some HCDTs were negotiating with banks and, shortchanging their trust and changing their dollar OPEX it was just a lot of insider trading reports that we were getting then. So we had to issue a policy directive and some subtle threats about reporting you to the EFCC. We did that, and that addressed that issue. So that's how we've been, enforcing compliance and managing the issues as we, observe them, as we get reports, we manage it. Thank you.
Thank you for your intervention, Ms. Awah. I think I still have a few minutes to squeeze in one more question from Ms. Awah, as I mentioned, and that has to do with also the regulators supporting settlors. So I know that there is the Host Community Development Trust Implementation Template, which is available publicly. But apart from that, are there other templates available? Is again, to speak to what Dr. Idike said in terms of the needs assessment being the fulcrum, right, with regards to developing a robust plan, is the Commission also looking to develop community needs assessment development toolkits? So yeah.
So apart from the regulation is like the Bible, is what we use in implementing the HCDTs. We also have the implementation template, like you mentioned, and it's a guide for operators when they want to start the process of, engaging with their communities and setting up the trusts. We also have a guideline for appointing fund managers that we didn't have before, but we had to come up with that guideline for appointing fund managers, and then for appointing auditors. So we expect that you send in the PIA says by May 31st of every year, an annual report must be submitted to the Commission, and appointing auditors to look at the trust accounts and do the audited financials. With some settlers were telling us that they were having issues doing that. They had to work with the BOTs. They're going to pay that auditor from the admin cost fund. So we had to develop some guidelines for that as well. Those are two extra templates that we have developed aside the implementation template. What was the second question again? Sorry.
The second question has to do with is the Commission looking to develop toolkits? Yeah.
Okay. For needs assessment, we have a template already. So we have, as far back as 2023, we issued a template for putting together your needs assessment and the community development plan. But at that time, we already had CDPs that were submitted for some of the trusts. So it was only the settlers that were coming on after that utilized that tool. You can call it a toolkit, but we call it a template tool for CDP and needs assessment. It's a detailed document that we issued to the industry.
So thank you for your interventions to all the panelists. I think we can go to Q&A now. So if you have any questions, I think you just indicate and the panelists can answer.
Okay, so thank you. Please, a round of applause for them. You want to... Okay, context. Oh, I thought you... Because I saw you smiling as you were speaking. I said, yes, you are saying, you are representing us well. Yes. I saw all of that. So when you raise your hand for question again, I said, what's going on here? Don't mind me. Okay. Please, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. Wait, please, everybody put your hands up again. I'm coming from the back. Yeah. The man in blue, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, I got it. So note your numbers. When you come forward, yes. Excuse me. When you come forward, please introduce yourself and then your parts in this ecosystem. I was tempted to say value chain. If you're a settlor, let us know. If you're from the host community, let us know. Excuse me. Yeah, and thereafter, ask your question. You're free to ask. Mrs. Awah, just direct your question. That's what I meant. So from the back, first person. I mean, that we have 6 people give questions means that we're all listening. Please, a round of applause for yourselves.
Where do I face? This place or this place?
Yes. Well, you know what, just...
Okay.
Straight to your question.
Yeah. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Uzoho. I'm a journalist, so I cover the energy sector in these day newspapers. So I have just one question. The question is, because this question is, is coming from the concern that state government, are raising. So they are saying that this HCDT, that the federal government is interacting with host communities directly, and that the state governments do not have any role in what is being done. So I want to ask, what is NUPRC doing in that regard, so that we don't begin to have, state government, sabotaging the effort of the PIA? Thank you.
Let's take all of them. Okay. That's great. Second person. That way we save time and then. But thank you, sir. Mr. This day, you went direct to the question. Second person. Yes. You can also go over there. And then your name, your organization, and shoot. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Oluwadare from Brown Oil and Gas Limited. Brown Oil and Gas Limited. Yes, we're settlor representatives for PPL 239 Obira Field, and I want to ask a question to get clarity in trying to know the host communities that are to be included under your plan, your trust, so that in a way that by the time you're engaging those communities and you go there to execute your plan, other communities, like maybe neighboring communities, don't complain that we're also meant to be under this HCDT. How do you get clarity on that? Whereby, let's say this is your field and you have communities around your field, but a neighboring community could come argue that, okay, we are also affected by this, but let's say they're just like a few kilometers away, so you miss out on them, so like how do you avoid those kind of discrepancies? And also the templates for needs assessments and the CDP. Yes, please, where can we get that as well? Thank you.
So your first question speaks to proper delineation of the territories in such a way that no community comes to you because, all right, thank you.
After incorporation, so no community comes to you to argue.
Thank you. Number 3. Okay. That's number 2, right? Number 3 was somewhere around there. And you are number 4, right? Number 3 has, you've asked number 3's question, I guess. So number 4 come. Who is number 3? It's you now. I was shocked. Everybody knows that you are the 3rd person except you. I thought maybe they've asked your question for you, so I should just move to the 4th person. All right, please introduce yourself and your organization or your party.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Ogunte. I'm a consultant, been in the oil industry for some time. One of the panelists here said that the HCDT is novel, is the first in the world, probably the only one. Well, I don't think that's a comment. I mean, that's a, I don't think that's it's a compliment. It's not. That's actually an indictment of ourselves because it's a failure of government. Because when you don't have something like this anywhere else in the world and you're having it in your country, it's just it's an acceptance of failure of government. And for me, I think that this is NDDC 3.0. NDDC failed, and the federal government came up with Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, and that too failed. So today we are talking about HCDT. I don't want to say it's going to fail, but all of us know what's going on. One of the things that I've observed is this. For the NUPRC, you will discover that a particular host community will have like 3 to 4 settlors. All right? And I don't need to mention, you guys know it. In that case, what I have discovered is, because I've spoken to some of these guys, they don't talk to each other. You're talking about needs assessment. So you're going to have 4 different needs assessments for one host community because there are 4 settlors. And none of these guys are talking to each other about what they are going to be doing. What are you going to be doing? What are you going to be doing? You have 4 different settlors in one host community. They are not talking to each other. That's one. Another one is all these 4 HCDTs are also not talking to other development partners like the NDDC, the state government, the local government councils. One of the experiences I had was I did a research for a company some time ago, and it was about potable water provision in the community. And I discovered that in one particular host community, there were about 17 water projects, and none of those water projects was working. So I decided to visit the local council secretary to find out if they had any data about any of those projects. And none of them had. So this is one of the issues that we're going to be having with this HCDT. You're not talking to each other. You're not communicating with development partners. And so at the end of the day, we're not talking about, I know you're going to have some solar projects, boreholes and the rest of them. How sustainable will those things be? So just the last point. The last point has to do with transparency. And my suggestion will be that audited accounts of all these trusts should not just be sent to NUPRC for filing. It should be compulsory for them to publish it on their website so that third parties, even people who are not interested, can access those audited accounts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, a little optimism is good sometimes. Number 4. Thank you. So in the structuring of this event, we are right after now, we'll have a short tea break, and thereafter, because we've been sitting for almost over an hour actually.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oyeyemi. I work as an operations officer for a settlor. My question, Brown Oil and Gas Limited. My question is to Madam Awah. Of the 146 fully ratified HCDTs, I would really love a case scenario that is fully fledged with information with regards to littoral communities. How were these particular HCDTs relating to littoral communities set in place? And then my second question is to the gentleman from Ingentia. I understand there are some operational excellence that have been achieved recently. Please kindly give me a brief overview, a purview as to how HCDT was very crucial to this particular operational achievement. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Julius Odemi Brown, Community Relations Manager, Antam Producing Limited. I have one comment and one question. The question is pertains to the issue of funding the HCDT through other sources as described by Engineer Karimo. Recently, I got an advert from the Japanese government intending to assist local communities in sub-Saharan Africa with a tune of $10 million. So I made an inquiry and passed it on to one of my trust BOT member. And then we made further inquiries on that, and some of the criteria was, one, they must have a good track record. Track record in terms of audited accounts and projects executed, Secondly, the CDP, that's the Community Development Plan, must have been developed by a reputable auditing firm. They made mention of PwC and KPMG. So we made an effort to see if we can get that done, because we already have a CDP which was used, in which we use the NUPRC template, but that wasn't acceptable. And going to PwC or KPMG to do a proper community development plan, which we accepted by them, would cost a lot of money. But then that wasn't in the needs assessment that had been approved by NUPRC. So the question is, now that you're developing framework around other sources, please, let's see if we can cheat or give allowance to some of these things, because getting money from outside sources is actually enormous in terms of documentation. My other comment is one of the issues we faced earlier on is argument with the communities on whether the 3% is actually 3%. If we just give us anything, you call it 3%, But we told them, that this is a factual sum. And then we asked them to meet our senior partners, that's NUIMS. Now, this budget, it's not arbitrary. NUIMS work with us with the budget and also work with us and approve the performance. So the figures are not arbitrary. So, at this meeting, of course, at the beginning, some media houses and some people misinforming the amount that constitutes 3%. It's very, very important, that whenever we want to publish what is 3%, we can easily get those facts from NUIMS. Okay, they have the facts. Because once the committee hears a different figure from what we have given them, it will cause a whole lot of confusion and agitation. I thought I should mention that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number 6, and then we would have NUP. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kazim Kolyosho. I work with Oriental Energy. I'm the External Affairs Manager. My question actually would, let me put a disclaimer forward. It's not having any bearing on my company's position, so I need to make that very clear. But this is a personal position I've held for quite a number of years. Around the table today, it has been mentioned that NDDC didn't quite work out the way we had hoped for it to do. Now, NDDC is also an act by law, and is charging companies 3% of their budget. Mind, I did say budget, not expenditure as it is done in the PIA. Is there still a need for the NDDC to continue charging 3% of our budgets when we're already paying 3% of our expenditure again, which amounts essentially to double taxation on the oil companies? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Sir, and it just so happens that you are taking the mic now, so you might as well. Sir, you raised your hand. Yes, so maybe you can give those.
Okay.
But sorry, first, just before you, please, can we appreciate our panelists with a round of applause? I said we should do this because everyone was taking notes so that no question is omitted. So, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panel. Very well done. I wanted to, why I raised up my hand was to put context to some of the issues discussed. Okay, so for the project award system, yeah, the contracting process, we just finished a guideline to address that for uniformity's sake. It's awaiting peer review because we don't issue any guideline or regulation without peer review. We developed it in conjunction with some settlors. You understand, the settlors that we observe that their trust is, the operations are going on very smoothly. So we just picked their brains, so to say, to come up with that guideline. So we're going to peer review it with with a bigger body of more settlers. So that is something that is, yeah. And another template is the reporting template for the mid-year and annual report from the HCDT. So we have that. It's ready for issuance next week. You'll all get that. So for uniformity's sake too, so that the reporting will be uniform across HCDT. So that is also it's also in the works. We mentioned about sanctions and fines and whatnot. So what was mentioned in the PI, the act itself, was the revocation. But if you look at the regulation, there are some fines and penalties there. So that, I mean, it won't be just revocation, any infraction, revocation, no. So we put some fines and penalties to address maybe lesser infractions. You understand? So that's so revocation is the extreme case, and that has not been invoked. No, it has not been invoked. So I mean, and of course, we are business enablers, opportunity providers. We are partners in progress. So I mean, we'll continue to guide the settlers towards achieving compliance. So you want me to answer some of the questions, or?
I wouldn't know.
No. Okay. The panel.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Engineer Karimo, for the clarification. Don't worry, I think Ms. Awah would answer the questions that are directed to Adea NUPRC. And if she needs to call for backup, you are here. But I think we should start with the role of the state government in HCDT interaction and implementation. And I think Ms. Awah will be fit to take that, or if any other person wants to speak as well. But I think let us allow Ms. Awah start before other persons can chime in.
Okay, so I have 6 questions that I noted, and some are carrying babies. Question 3 has sub question 1, 2, and same for question 5. So I'm just going to stick with what the moderator asks me. So for state and local government involvement in setting up the HCDTs, there is no role for state governments currently in the PIA. There is also no role even for traditional rulers and paramount rulers, as some communities call them. However, we know that these are the tier of government that is closest to the communities. So whether we like it or not, there's been some interference, if I can call it that, from state governments. There's also been some good value addition from them, because for some ministries of chieftaincy affairs and community affairs chieftaincy, however they call it in some states, they've had to wade into some disputes, and they've been able to add value. There are some mediations that we've had 4 or 5 meetings, we were not heading anywhere, and then the communities took themselves to their state government, the commissioner will sit on it, and then we were able to gain traction. So there's no qualms about it. The state government involvement has added value. However, we've also had petitions from some state governments organs telling us that they didn't consult us, and so we need you to stop dealing with this HCDT, and we usually just respond respectfully that we understand that maybe you wanted them to consult you, but the settlers are not obligated to do so as at today. They did not breach any laws. So if you will just permit this to go on so that the communities are not deprived of the benefits that should accrue to them from those HCDs. So we've been managing those issues as they come up with state government organs. If anything is going to change, that will require some amendment to the law. And until that happens, there's really nothing we can do. As the commission, we just manage the issues as they come up with regard to state and local government involvement.
I think Dr. Idike has an intervention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam. I totally agree with you, but I just want to provide a legal context to this. Good question, but the answer lies in the provisions of our Constitution. If you look at our Constitution has distributed powers of federal government and state governments clearly, and the oil and gas comes under the exclusive legislative list. So no state government has any power, no legal power to interfere in oil and gas matters. And host community development trust comes under it. So it's specifically under the exclusive jurisdiction of the federal government. So that is the answer. What I expect the state governments to do is to continue to support the initiative, and not to say, look, we want to have a piece of the pie. No, until the Constitution, not even the PIA cannot do it. The PIA cannot donate such powers to state government. It's only the Constitution of our country that can do it. Because it's clearly, the powers of the state and the federal government are clearly separated under the Constitution. We have the exclusive legislative list. We also have the concurrent legislative list where the state government and the federal government, share powers. But if you see any item in the exclusive legislative list, states are not allowed to legislate or participate in them. But because we are a federation, we expect state government to support such initiatives within their domain. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Idike. Mr. Toby, I think you have a comment on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, I think Dr. Idike has talked about the legal perspective. But since the HCDT, just a suggestion, is working based on past experience from the GMOU, let me just share a little bit. When I was working the development plan and all these things we had with the GMOU, we roll out, the cluster board awarded a contract, the contractor mobilized to site, and then behold, the state government had also awarded the same contract. So what I'll suggest here is that the development institution there, that's the HCDT, should try and work. They are not subsumed under the state, but they should collaborate. If there's a need for you to go and meet, this thing I want to do now, is my state about to do it, or local government about to execute it, so that I don't double up. What happened in that case is that we lost money, because we mobilized the cluster board contractor, and the government had also mobilized the same contractor. Our own contractor then had done up to 2 milestones. The state overruled that is a state facility, which was actually a secondary school building. You can't challenge them. I'm trying to bring this up so that we know that there's a need for the HCDT to collaborate with the local government and the state government in the area of execution of projects, so that there won't be any duplication. Thank you.
Thank you. Dari, any interventions?
Very minor. I mean, during my opening remarks, and I mentioned that, look, we need to get to a point where we realize that, you know, corporate businesses are corporate businesses. They are there to take care of all stakeholders, community involved as well, you know. But let's not also forget that these arms of government also have their responsibilities to their citizens. Let's also look to ask these state governments, what are you doing? This road is your road. This pipe-borne water is yours to also do. You know, in addition to HCDT, these companies pay tax as well, right? So let's not substitute the responsibility of government for corporate individuals. Just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you. Question 2. I know we are short of time, so we would move quickly. Question 2 has to do with delineation of those community. How do we determine that? I recall that Engineer Karimo said that it is the role of the settlor, but I guess a settlor is asking direction from the commission. So do you want to take it? Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, I think the question will be twofold. The question 4 on littoral communities. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So PPL 239. My number one advice: let us continue this conversation outside of this meeting. But as I said during my presentation, the role is yours, really, but we can assist. The commission can assist, first by identifying the previous owner of that field, reaching out to them, finding out which community they dealt with. So we can start from there. If that does not work out, then we'll need your GIS guys who will do some ground truthing, and then we will identify those communities. However, for you to put a caveat that nobody will come up with a petition in future, we have no control over that. Expect the unexpected. There is always a probability of somebody coming up that, it's for you to do your due diligence. So what I always advise is rely on science. Rely on science. Go scientific in your identification so that you can have some justification. These are the steps I followed. These are the criteria I selected, and you can stand by that. I want to give an example. I talked about the size of PPLs and the OMLs. PPLs are way smaller. OMLs about 10 times larger than them. They're about So there's an OML offshore, just offshore, slightly offshore Bayelsa, and they picked about 8 to 10 communities littoral communities along the shoreline. So there's now a smaller PPL within the OML, smaller one. So when they went for the identification, the 10 sets of communities wanted to be their host communities. So they came running to us, and I told them, yeah, fine, this is a classical example. You cannot take the 10 because your area, your footprint is way smaller. You understand? So that is just an example. For the littoral, okay, littoral, pre-PIA, deep water assets took the entire country as their host communities. By deep water assets, I mean OMLs in excess of 200, 150 kilometers offshore. PSC. The Bonga, Agbami, Era, and all the rest. So they took the entire country as their host communities. So they can come, they can go to Maiduguri, carry out projects, can go to Abuja, anywhere in the country. But upon the passage of the PIA stated clearly that for deep water operators, littoral communities shall be their host communities. So in the regulation, we further qualified that to mean communities within 500 meters from the shoreline. So that aspect has not actually taken up. It has not started the deep water HCDTs. So because we approached the National Boundary Commission to do the delineation of those communities along the coastline. So we're still in the process of doing that. So for littoral communities, so deep water, that has not started. So that's the explanation for that.
Okay, thank you. I think just closely related to that is where can settlers get templates for the needs assessment and CDP?
Okay, maybe we can share that. We have the template.
For new entrants into the industry, the PPL awardees, you would need to be onboarded on Host Comply first, and then we can share the templates for needs assessment and CDP with you. But those on the HCDT forum, they have it. If you're starting this process, we'll onboard you. You send us an email. You can meet us after the meeting. We'll send you the commission's email. You send a request, and then we onboard you onto the portal and share the templates you need with you.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is the concerns about communication between settlers in terms of when you have more than one settler for the same community. How is that being handled?
For project overlaps.
Yes.
You mentioned project overlaps. I think Mr. Karimu should take that as well.
Okay, sorry, that mic is low. All right, so that's not the only question there, but I think that's the first one. So is a conversation we've been having in the commission. We've identified that yes, there are HCDTs that could overlap. As I said, it's not one HCDT it's not one host community per HCDT. So there could be HCDT A with community Y and HCDT B with the same community Y. You understand? You're going to carry out needs assessment, CDP. So there could be, duplicity of project. Even on top of that, another layer is a local government, another layer is a state government, another layer interventionist agencies, So it's a conversation we are having at the commission. So how do we smoothen this over? As I told you, this is a new pathway we are walking. This is all new. And as we go ahead, we try to address some of this issue. So it's something we're discussing with the stakeholders, especially the settlors. How do we address this issue? You understand? Especially for the HCDTs. So we're not oblivious of that fact. For the issue around, there was a statement here that because we're implementing the HCDT and it is the first of its kind, so automatically it means it's a bad thing, that something is wrong with us. I seriously beg to differ on that. I think I was on Facebook or something, I can't remember which social media channel. Somebody was making a distinction. He said, you build cities to suit your needs. We made some examples. He said London. London was built around buses and underground. He said Amsterdam. Amsterdam was built around bicycles. That is the most common means of transportation. Mentioned another city, Dubai, you know. He said, so what do we want? We need to build something to suit. Is it keke that we want? You understand? So I differ with your position that because we have HCDT, then that means we've gotten it wrong. No, we have to look at our peculiarities and try to address, you know, what our issues are. Sometime last year, there was supposed to be an exchange program with Canada on this, our HCDT initiative. It's something we're looking at exporting. You understand? So it's not peculiar, it will eventually not be peculiar to us. It's part of what we want to address with our compendium of knowledge. We're going to share that knowledge globally. So I think we should look at it from a positive perspective rather than, let's running it down. So, a good feedback is about the issue of audited accounts being published. That's a good feedback, and that's something we're going to take on board. We'll go back and yes, audited reports that have been submitted, we'll look at publishing it so that we make it public. We're not trying to hide anything. If you find any HCDT wanting, we'll call them to order. So, that's in order. Mr. Julius Brown mentioned about this funds other than 3%. At the very beginning, I think a few months into the implementation, I got a request from one of the HCDTs, and he said he wanted to apply for a donor agency. And I'm like, no, you've not started anything. You don't have anything on ground. You've not done any project. You've not even used your 3%. You want to know? We said no. If I had gone to EFCC to get some sort of clearance and whatnot, I said no. You need track record. All the things you listed here, you understand? Track record of achievements, project executed and all that. I said, no, you can't start. You've not used your 3%.